starts, right, it will also start recording. Okay, so right now let us say that I'm going to the Google Chrome window where there is a particular YouTube link, and I'm just trying to see whether that has become online. Say that I'm going to the so yes, Google it has become online, and this is the class that you can access directly right now when I am being streaming it. Okay, so I think it will be streamed just like what you see here, where there is a but online, and when I am okay, and the recording will also appear the same way. Okay, so I think okay, so now I have shared the link with you, and next is let's go to the class. Right. Okay, so CSE 154, and the recording will be somewhat similar to this. Okay, can someone please check whether the sound is all right on that YouTube page?
Yes, sir, it's fine.
It is all right. Okay, so CSE 154, I'm sorry, that is the that's from another course slide from New York State University. So this is the lecture 4, page sections and the CSS box model. So we started with HTML, right, and then we learned a bit of styling, and then we moved on to CSS yesterday. Okay, and we have seen 3 different kinds of CSS: the inline, internal, and the external. And we know that external is the best way to define a CSS because you can actually use it at multiple places. And we have seen the selectors, property, and the value yesterday. Okay, so here we will start with something called vertical align. Okay, so this is regarding aligning the content in a particular box, or if you consider a block. Okay, let's say a paragraph block, or let us say a image block, and the content of the image is the size of the image. Say for example, if it is a 400 by 400 image, 400 pixels by 400 pixels image, then the content will use 400 by 400 pixels, and then there will be some margin or some additional area around that particular block. Okay, and now where do we have to align this particular content with respect to the block or the elements box? Okay, and there is something called vertical align. That's a property, and it can be top, middle, bottom, or baseline, sub, super, text top, text bottom, or it could be a percentage of the value. Okay, so it means that we will be able to align this particular image in a way. Say for example, in this one we have the vertical align bottom, and the text is at the bottom. Okay, and then you have the vertical align middle. Okay, and the text is coming in the middle, and then you have the vertical align top, and the text comes at the top. Okay, so that is with regards to the vertical align. So now let us say that if you have a page like this, okay, where you have some content. So you have a links on the left side of the page, you have news on the right side of the page, and then you have a heading, then you have another heading, and some content after the first heading and the second heading as well, right? So we want to be able to style the individual elements, group of elements, and sections of the text or of the page. So this is what we want to do, and if we have to do it with just simple HTML, what we would have to do is we would have to specify the background color of that particular block, then the color for that block, then the font for that block, alignment, and all those details. Now if we want to create some complex page layouts, right, we may want to use the CSS. So when you do the CSS, right, say for example, let us say that I want this particular blah blah welcome to my ultimate page to be displayed in red color, and while this is actually a paragraph p with p tag, okay, and this one is also, let's say that is using p tag, but I want this p tag to be displayed in a different color and this one in a different color. So if I am going to use the selector p in my CSS, then what will happen is that all the p tags will have the same look, okay. So I won't be able to differentiate, or I won't be able to give a different style to the first p tag and the second p tag. So instead of that, there is something called an ID that I can apply, okay. So an ID is something that is unique to a page and it has to be used at only one place. Say for example, an ID is unique to an entire page and it is used at one of the tags. So here we have something like a p tag with the ID mission, okay, and then you have another p tag without any particular ID. So it says spatula city, and for the p tag next one we have the ID mission, and what is this q tag for? Double quotes that we have seen yesterday, right, or earlier in our class. So you have a p tag which says our mission is to provide the most spectacular spatulas and splurge on the special until our customers, double quotes, explode with splendor. Okay, so that is the HTML part that we want. And now here, right, for the second p I have given a particular ID called mission, and for the first one I have not given any ID. So you can give IDs to each and every tag like this, and you can give a unique ID to any element on a page, and each ID must be unique and can be used only once in the page. That is the thing with ID. Say for example, if you go to the Wikipedia page, let's say if you go to Wikipedia, okay, let's go to some English article, and let's say, let's look for this person. Okay, over here, right, I have opened a page, and it's about some burnt candle mass. Okay, I don't know what it is, I don't know what exactly this whole article is about, but the reason why I opened it is I want to show you something. Say when I actually hover over the contents part over here, right, so I have not clicked on, or I have not hovered over any links so far. Let me hover over the background link first. Now when I hovered over the background link, you can see that the link that is shown at the top left, I'm sorry, the bottom left is https enwikipedia.org/wiki/ the particular burnt candle mass #background. Okay, now I am going to hover over the next link, Scottish invasion, and it says #Scottish invasion and Berwick Berwick. Okay, and now if you look at the URL on the top part where I am highlighting right now, you can see that it is en.wikipedia.org wiki burnt candle mass, and there is a lock icon to the left, which means that it is an HTTPS connection. Okay, now when I try to hover over this particular thing, right, you can see that it is the same URL that is on the top URL bar that is shown at the bottom, but the addition is something called #invasion, #advance, #retreat, #aftermath, citations and sources, #citations, #sources. Now when I click on, let's say, English invasion, okay, what happened is that it went to a page saying English invasion. Now if I scroll to the top right, I can still come back to the contents, okay, and I can go to, let's say, aftermath. Okay, now how is this done? This is actually done with the help of what we were learning right now, called the ID. Okay, so ID has two uses. Now ID can be used for CSS definition, for a particular style to be applied to a particular ID. Okay, and the ID can be given in the link. So in this particular example, right, we have given visit textpad.com to get the textpad editor, view our mission statement. Okay, now it's a in the HTML it is written p tag visit a tag a href, then the link hash downloads, and then the text for that is textpad.com, and then the a tag close to get the textpad editor, and then the p tag was closed. Okay, so here the id was used, hash downloads. So hash downloads has to be there in index.html. If it is not there, then it will not just take you there. That's all what is happening. Okay, it will take you to index.html page. If there is no particular id called hash downloads used in any of the elements, then it will not take you to hash downloads id. Now if there is an id called mission, then in the next one, right, in the next p tag there is an a tag given, that's a link with href hash mission, view our mission statement. So if it is actually saved on our IIIT website, okay, in the index.html, then it will be shown as iitt.ac.in/index.html hash mission. Okay, so that will be the link that will be generated. Now a target link can include an id at the end preceded by a hash. Okay, so that is how you can actually navigate to, say for example, if I want to share the English invasion from the burned candle mass, right, I can just click on this, it will take me to English invasion, and I copy the URL and I take a new tab and I just go to that URL. It will take me to the same exact place where I want the user to look at. Okay, okay, so that is how you will link to the sections of a web page using the id. Okay, browser will load that page and scroll to the element with the given id. So that is how it happens. You can also use it with CSS. So you can use hash mission in your CSS as a selector. Okay, so mission is your id that you have given in the HTML code at some place, and so you want to use this particular font style italic and font family Garamond. So if Garamond is not available on that particular computer, then it will try to look for Century Gothic, and if that is also not available, then it will try to look for serif. Okay, so right now it has rendered the HTML with the correct font and the styling, and it says our mission is to provide the most spectacular spatulas and splurge on our specials until our customers explode with splendor. Okay, now you can see that we have actually been able to use p tags and able to differentiate between the two different styles by the id used, hash mission. Okay, so this applies style only to the paragraph that has the id of mission, and element can be specified explicitly like p hash mission. Okay, so you can also specify it as p hash mission so that it will be used, this particular CSS will be applicable only for a p tag which has the id mission. You can also have another tag which contains the mission, right? Say for example, in another HTML file, in any single HTML file you can use it only once. Now there is something called, so right now we have been reading about id is equal to mission. So id has a constraint that it can be used only with one element on a page, and it has to be unique to the element on that page, and each id must be unique and can be used only once in the page. Okay, and we are now introducing something called class. Okay, so a class is like an id, but not an id for the particular element alone. Okay, it has a particular class. Say for example, there is 3 p tags given here, okay, which has the classes shout, special and special. So unlike the id which can be used only once, the class can be used at multiple tags. Okay, and whatever class you have specified in the CSS can uh, will be that particular styling will be applied to this p tag and for this p tag and for this p tag as well. Okay, now classes are a way to group some elements and give a style to only that group. Okay, I don't want all paragraphs to be yellow, just these three. Okay, so these are shout and special, so which means that you don't you want to use this p class, and it should, if you use this particular class with that p, right, p tag, then it will be shown in a different styling. So the class can be reused as much as you like on a particular page. Remember, it is different from id, like id is equal to double quotes hash mission, right? Oh, you don't have to have a hash here in the id, but when you are referring to it, you have to use hash mission. Okay, and for a class, it will be the class name. Okay, and it will be used like this dot special. Okay, so a class members are usually accessed using a dot operator. I mean, that's what we have learned in C++. Okay, and similar way we have dot special, that is for the class special. And if you want to use specifically that shout is for the p class, then you can use p dot shout. So dot special, which is for any element with class special, and p dot shout means that only p elements with the class shout may use this particular CSS styling. Okay, so we have just some message. Okay, so we have three p tags, one using the shout and the other two uses the special. Okay, and in the special one we have the font weight to be bold, and for the shout we have the font family to be cursive and color to be red, and it is used only with the p dot shout. Okay, but it is a p tag where we have used the shout with, so it will work. Okay, and now we can also use multiple classes with a particular tag. Say for example, in the third one that we look at here, right? So first one is a h2 tag, next is a p tag, and next is a p tag, and the last one is also a p tag. But the third one here, right, after the h2 and p, you have the third p, which is assigned to two classes, special as well as shout. Okay, and h2 is also in shout, the p second one is in only in special, p third one is in special and shout, p fourth one is in p fourth line, okay, is in shout alone. Okay, and you can actually have the styles generated that way as well. So you can write for dot special, background color can be yellow and font weight can be bold, and for shout color can be red and font family is cursive. So for the third one, right, we have the background as yellow as well as the cursive red color also for the shout. Okay, so this is how we will use multiple classes. So assume that for the next few slides these CSS rules will be defined for special and shout. Okay, so this is special and this is shout. Okay, oh, by the way, this is shout and this is special and shout. Okay, so here we have a div class shout. So now we are also introducing we are also introduced to a new topic. Okay, so far we have learned different tags. So here, right, in this one is a div tag, and a div tag is used in so div tag is used in HTML. Okay, div is used like this. Okay, so after the body, right, in the HTML part, you can have multiple divs. Okay, you can have a div, you can have a div like this, you can have another div here. Okay, so the div tag is something that we will be using in a HTML, and so here the div tag is being used, and the div tag is a bigger tag which has multiple other tags like h2, p and p inside that. So this entire div tag is using the class shout, right? So because it is using the class shout, the h2, p and the p will get these renderings, and since the second p class, right, instead of using only shout, it uses a special also. So you can see it is in shout and special with the yellow background. Okay, so a tag is used to indicate a logical section or area of a page. Okay, so that is what the div tag will actually be used for when we program the HTML pages. It does not have any appearance by default, but you can apply styles to this particular div tag also. Okay, so div is used for a section or a division of your HTML page. Then you can also have some context selectors for your CSS. Okay, say for example, if in my CSS the selectors, right, p and a and h2, h3, h5, h6, hash mission, special, shout, like dot special, p dot shout are all the selectors that we have used so far, right? Now if I want to use two selectors, we have seen that we can use it that way also. Now if I use two selectors, what happens is, let's say selector 1, selector 2, and then some properties are written in the CSS. Then it applies the given properties to selector 2 only if it is inside a selector 1 on the page. So if you have, let us say, I'm just going to delete it. Okay, if you have selector 1, selector 1, okay, so I'm saying that this is let's say div and div. Okay, that's the first selector. Okay, and the next selector is, let's say, p. Okay, so in the this is for the HTML. Okay, and in the CSS what I will have is div space p, right? So this is how I will write the CSS for the div p, and it means that it will be applicable only for a HTML which has a p inside a div. Okay, so that is what selector 1 and selector 2 like this in a CSS means. Then you have selector 1 greater than selector 2. Okay, it means that here, right, the selector 2 need, so I'll tell you, say I can also have let's say a, then I can have okay, then I can have let's say okay. Okay, so in this one, right, what I am showing is that for the first case where the div and the p, right, div space p properties that we have seen can be applicable to the HTML that we see on the top part of your screen. Now if I put div greater than p, right, then it means that for this HTML that I have given over here, it will not be applicable. It will be applicable only if it directly falls over here. Just after div, the p is there. Okay, so it has to be a slash p. Okay, so applies the given properties to selector 2 only if it is directly inside selector 1 on the page. Selector 2 tag is immediately inside selector 1 with no tags in between. So that is what the difference is between selector 1 selector 2 properties and selector 1 greater than selector 2 properties. Okay, so here you can have the CSS like li strong text decoration underline. So if you have a list element for, okay, so if you have a list entry, then if you have a strong inside an li, then you will apply the underline. Okay, so the best prices in town. And same way, if you have yeah, so in this one li strong, right, so in this one, right, p strong, in this strong, the since it is li strong, it does not have the underline. Okay, and this is a more complex example. So this is an example of the context selector, and this is a more complex example of the context selector. So it has add li dot important strong. So if it has a tag, I mean if it has an id called add, then it should contain an li important. Okay, so important is the class that you have used, it's not the id. Okay, so that is very important that you understand what this dot important is. Okay, so hash add means that ad is a tag, so hash add space li dot important. So dot important has to be a class that is used in an list element. Okay, and then you have a strong inside that, then you will get an underline. Okay, so which means that you won't get underline for Hardwick's hardware, as well as you don't get an underline for while supplies last. Okay, so you can understand how this will be rendered, right? And next is, if you want to apply a particular class to a particular area of a text, then you can use something called a tag called span. Okay, if you want to apply a particular class alone, but it does not have an on-screen special appearance. Okay, let's say that it does not have to be in a h2 or something like that, or it does not have to be any other tag, then you can use span, which is an inline element used purely as a range for applying the styles. So you can give in the code span class special. So wherever you have the dot special, if it is just dot special, right, in your CSS, then it will be applied, or if it is span dot special, then also it will be applied. Okay, and so you can use span class special, then span class shout. So spectacular will be in with yellow background and bold font, and the span class shout will be in red cursive font. Okay, so that is the inline sections with span. Then you have something called a box model. Okay, so this is something that we need to understand with regards to the CSS box model. So which means that whenever we are going to place a content in a page, let's say it's an image, okay, or it is a text that we are going to paste, or it's a table that we are going to draw. Okay, it can be anything, something in a content. So the content so the content, right, it will have a boundary, and the content will be in a container, right? So that is the innermost place where the width is given, okay, and the height is given. So it will have a width and a height for this particular content, and the boundary of the content container is having the particular height and the width. Okay, so the content will be shown at this place, Then you can have an additional area after the content container called the padding area. Okay, so you have the padding area outside the boundary of the content container, and then you can have something called, so after the padding, right, you will have a border. Okay, it's not the boundary of the content container but the border, and then you can have something called a margin. Okay, so this is what a CSS box model typically looks like. Okay, so when you are actually going to design, so you need to understand that when you are going to place data on a HTML page, you are actually essentially placing some rectangles which has a particular height and width, correct? And then you have another rectangle which is also having some particular height and width, and these rectangles are arranged in a page. Okay, so with the CSS you need to actually you can actually do control a lot of placements, etc. Okay, so here for the layout purpose, every element is composed of the actual element's content. Okay, a border around the element, padding between the content and the border, so that is the inside padding, and then you have a margin between the border and other content. So before you have the other content, you should have a margin. So width is given as content width plus left and right padding plus left and right border. So border may also contain a particular thickness, right? So for example, if I have a boundary wall at my plot, it will have a particular thickness, right? So that is the left right padding plus the left right border plus the left right margin. So that is how the width will be calculated for this particular box. And height is shown as content height plus top bottom padding plus top bottom border plus top bottom margin. But you can see that IE6, the Internet Explorer 6, doesn't do this particular CSS model, box model correctly. Okay, I think they have different better versions of Internet Explorer now, which may be showing it properly. Okay, so that means that you should not try it with Internet Explorer 6. Okay, you should use some other better browser than Internet Explorer. So this is how the elements are actually I told you that it contains rectangles, okay, blocks, which so every h1, so in this one, right, in this particular example, if you consider a window, it has 4 major elements, h1, h2, p and another p, and the h1 contains a text and then another text, h2 contains one text. Okay, so h1 contains 2 texts which are inside one h1, h2 contains one text part, and p contains a text, emphasis, text, then a link, and then another text. Then the next p contains a text, image, text, and another link. Okay, so you can actually use CSS properties for borders, etc. Say for example, let us say that there is a h2 tag that we are going to use. So you can use the selector h2 and mention the border is equal to border, that's a property, and then the values. Okay, 5 pixel, solid, red color. Okay, the output would be something like what you see here on the slide. So this is a heading which will be the h2, and then you have the border which is 5 pixels wide and colored in solid red color. The border can be you can specify multiple things like the thickness, style and color of the border on all the 4 sides. So the thickness I can be either specified in pixels, points, em is it means that it's a percentage of the total content width. Okay, so that is em. Then or you can mention thin, medium and thick. Okay, you can have the style. So in this one, right, the style is solid. Instead of that, you can have no style, that is it won't be shown, or it is hidden, that is again it won't be shown, or it is dotted, which means that it will not be continuous solid line, but it will be there will be separations between there will be some lines in between this border. Okay, so dotted, dashed, double, which means two lines, groove, inset, outset, ridge, and solid. So you can imagine it's pretty much like what you see is what you get, editor kind of styling things that you can apply with the code with CSS over here. Okay, and then you have color can be specified. So you can specify it as RGB, then the 3 numbers, or you can specify the color name, or you can specify the hex code for the color. Okay. You can have more border properties like border color, border width, border style, border bottom, border left, border right, border top, border bottom color, border bottom style, border bottom width, border left color, border left style, border left width, border right color, border right style, border right width, border top color, border top style, border top width, and these are for specific properties of all the borders. The first three, border color, border width, and border style. Then all properties of border on a particular side can be selected by the border bottom, border left, border right, border top, and then you can have properties of border on a particular side as well, right? And let me copy this, copy link. Okay, so just let's go to that particular link. So CSS reference border. Oh my goodness, this particular link seems to be broken. So W3 schools CSS border. Okay, so you can find more details by doing a simple search like this on W3 schools. So W3 schools gives you very good resource. Okay, it will give you all the examples, it will give you all the possible use cases. Okay, and you can also have a try it yourself page here, right, where you have an inline, not inline but internal CSS. Okay, to try out the various settings that you can do. All right. So this is a very good way to write the code. Say for example, you have p dotted, border style dotted, and how you will apply it is you will apply it with the class dotted. Okay, and then it will give a dotted border, then a dash border, solid border, double border, groove border, ridge border, inset border, outset border, no border, and so on. Okay, now you can earlier in the more border properties we have seen that we have something that selects all the borders, something that selects on a particular border, that is either on the left or the right or the top, and then you have properties related to each side borders as well. And you can see that there is a particular HTML output rendered over here which shows different kind of borders. So you can see that it is created using the particular CSS that is mentioned on the top. H2 with the selector is H2, border left thick dotted with some color #CC0088, so somewhat similar to magenta or something, I guess. Okay, so that's the border left, it's a thick dotted with this color line, and border bottom color, okay, is RGB 0 128 128, and the bottom color is border color is this color, and the border bottom style is double. So you can see that one edge has a different style and the other edge has a different style. So you can do all these kind of things with the borders that you want as well. So each side's border properties can be set individually, and if you omit some properties, right, they will receive the default values. Say for example, in this one, right, we have not specified the border bottom width, so it has taken the default value. Otherwise you can specify this particular property and its particular value. Okay, you can also have rounded borders. Okay, so for that you have the border to be 3 pixels solid blue, but the border radius is what makes it rounded. Okay, and you can also give a padding. So what is padding? For padding you need to understand that it is between the border and the content. Okay, and then you have a margin after that. So first is the content, then padding, then the margin. So we are mentioning the padding here is it has 0.5 em. Okay, so this is what the output would look like. Okay, so you have used 2 p tags. One p tag has the content. This is a paragraph. Okay, so you can see that it has drawn a blue solid border around it with some cornered, with some rounded corners. Okay, and that is the with the border radius 12 pixels, and another one bigger one. So each side's border radius can be set individually, separated by spaces. So you can actually set the border radius. Say for example, for this one, right, you can set the border radius separately for the different sides as well, and you need to just separate with it the space. So if you have multiple values like 3px solid blue, you will specify 12 pix space, 5 pix, etc. Okay, you can have padding on all the 4 sides: padding bottom, padding left, padding right, padding top. Okay, and you have a reference for complete list of padding properties. So you can search W3 schools CSS padding. Okay, so it will give you all the details about the padding properties. Then you have the margin, margin bottom, margin left, margin right, and the margin top. Okay, so here we have p and h2 tags as the selector. Okay, and we have width 350 for the p tag, and the background color to be yellow. And for the h2, the width is 50%. So 50% of the entire width of the page, right? So that is 50% of the entire width of the page will be used, and the background color will be aqua. And in the p tag, right, we have mentioned 350 pixels is the width. Okay, while in the next one we have mentioned a percentage of the total size of the screen. Width, height, so how tall or wide to make this element. Okay, so block elements only, and then you have the max width, max height, min width, and the min height. Then you have if you want to center a block element, okay, and you want to use auto margins. Let us say if you use the p selector p, then margin left auto and margin right auto, and the width is to be 750. In this particular case, right, if you use the text align, it will align the content to the middle of the page. Okay, to center inline elements within a block, use text align center, and this will work only the best only if you specify a particular width. Say for example, I can have the width set to be 50%, and I can then align it to the middle of this particular h2. I can align it at the middle, central line. Okay, so this particular title h2 title will move as an h2 heading at this particular location at the middle. Okay, so that is possible only if you set the width at property. Otherwise it will occupy the entire width of the page, and it will be shown at the middle of the entire page. Okay, so what's the time now? I think we will stop here. I want you to start writing some particular say I want you to start writing HTML pages. okay, with CSS. So I'll give you an a question. I'll give you a question. Okay, so all of you have a resume, right, or CV, right, which will be shown in a particular format where you have the image, then you have different headings, then you have different text, etc., right? So can someone share their CV on the screen? Any of you, can you volunteer? Okay, let me show you on overleaf. Let me see if I can show you my CV. Okay, so I have a CV that is done using LaTeX. Okay, so when it compiles, right, it will look somewhat like this. Okay, so this is what I meant. It has different elements, then it has some, you know, details about my address, etc., then my qualifications, right, and projects, and personal profile, achievements. So a lot of things are there, right? So yeah, now the reason why I showed you this is I want you to create your CV with okay, so let this be an exercise for you, and I want you to do it individually. Okay, this has to be done individually. You can beautify it. You must show your current CV in PDF or Word format. Okay, I would suggest in PDF format, and then also show the HTML equivalent, HTML based CV, HTML and CSS based CV. Okay, can you guys do this? So this will be a good starting exercise for you to write a particular HTML and CSS page. Okay, so that's it, guys. Let us do you have a class now, students?
No, sir.
Okay, so I'll stop recording now, and I'll leave the class for